in that region. Valley of Jehoshaphat as well, that region. Since it's synonymous with that. It lines up with second Ezra. Now it says, after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were so afraid, and yet there's fight. Because let's think about it. The most thing, or the top thing that Esau fear on this earth is a so-called black man in his right mind in a powerful state, and they can't do nothing to him. So them seeing angelic beings is actually dark skin, brown skin, flying in these ships as big as a mountain or big as a city or whatever, they gonna bug the fuck out. They ain't worrying about no, Esau not worrying about no damn aliens, no seeing no reptilians and no little grays or none of that stuff. What they fear the most, they seeing Yahweh Shah come out with angels. Now it says verse 9, and lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lifted up his hand, nor held sword, nor any instrument of war, but only I saw that he sent out his mouth, as it were, had been a blast of fire, and out of his lips flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempests. And they were all mixed together, the blast of fire, the flaming breath, and the great tempest, and fell with violence upon the multitude, which was prepared to fight, because they prepared to fight. They already got the Space Force and all the other stuff. They know it's something coming. But at the same time, they still prepared to fight against each other, but they're going to stop fighting each other to fight this cosmic threat. Like, what's the president there? The one says Ronald Reagan, if I'm mistaken. Could be wrong. Slovakia, if I am. But one president said, will all nations come together if it was some cosmic threat or some threat from space, they came to the earth. Yeah, it is going to be a threat from space come to the earth, and they're going to stop fighting each other. And like the scripture say, which was prepared to fight and burn them up, everyone, so that upon the sudden of a innumerable multitude, nothing was to be perceived, but only dust and the smell of smoke. When I saw this, I was afraid. So you just imagine, you have dreams and stuff. You remember your dreams. You might have had a dream. You got your new car, or got your house. You got that girl you always wanted. You got that new job. You had a dream about it. Prophets is having dreams about stuff like this, and they come to fruition. The one that come to fruition in that time, it was for this time. So let me go to this. I ain't gonna let the rest of that video play. Go to another one.
Still wearing enough layers to insulate an ice.
In Ukraine, bring in more lethal weapons.
I see Esau with his legendary tactic again.
UK Air Force starts airlift to Kiev with at least 7 large military aircraft flights filled with weaponry.
And they're not sitting this shit for no reason, man. They're not just putting on the show. They getting ready to do something. You gotta think about this year. Normally when the year start off, you hear about some big event. Like last year, some type of big event happened. It ain't happened yet, but you know Esau like to pull a fast one out of nowhere. Let me go to this real quick. It's the book of Mark, chapter 13 and verse 7. It says, and when you should hear of wars and rumors of wars, be ye not troubled, for such things must needs be, but the end should not be yet, because this stuff got to take place. People talk about living in the kingdom, and you know they want to do this and do that. Don't forget, certain stuff got to happen before this take place. In verse 8 it says, for nation shall rise against nation. What this is going on right here. Ukraine sending military and cargo. Situation with Iran and Israel. The situation with the U.S. and Ukraine. Because the UK don't join in now. Now they linking up. Situation with Taiwan and China. That's nation against nation. Kingdom against kingdom. There should be earthquakes. Shit, there was just a few big earthquakes recently. I want to say one of them, it was like an earthquake that set off a volcano over there, off the west coast somewhere, and they had a tsunami warning in diverse places, and there should be famines and troubles. Hey, I made a video recently talking about the famines. Now they talking what the day is. Oh, tomorrow these truckers they talking about going on strike and they ain't shipping no goods. So you know what that means? Certain stores ain't getting certain shipments, and on top of that, the storms been hitting these snowstorms. That's slowing up shipments as well. So what you think will happen when certain stuff stop being shipped to stores? And people ain't really getting certain goods and all that. People gonna bug out, and they gonna fulfill the book of Ezra. When they say they should not regard their kings nor princes, and they matters should stand in their own power, roughly paraphrasing. Now it says, these are the beginning of sorrows, but take heed to yourselves, for they should deliver you to councils and the synagogues. You should be beaten, and you should be brought before rulers and kings for my sake, for a testimony against them. Because recently there was an event too that happened with a synagogue. I'm sure some of you I can seen it on the news. Stuff like that, that's just a precursor, because they used the I would say Shemitic, because that's what it is. It's not Sim, it's Shem. Shem. They try to use that. Well, you can't be anti-Shem. When you come from Shem, that don't even make sense. But hey, Esau gonna use that, try to bring you before these rulers, these kings, for testimony. You know, we read down some more. It says in verse 10, and the gospel must first be published among all nations. So this word, proper breakdowns, and went out over the whole earth. So people can't have no excuse and say, oh, I ain't never hear about that. I ain't know about no Israelites. I ain't know about being no Hebrew. I ain't know who Esau was. I ain't know about no Edomites. People know now. So hey, sometimes I meet people and we joke about who the Edomites is and shit like that. So hey, people know. Now verse 11 it says, but when they shall lead you and deliver you up, take no thought beforehand what you shall speak. Because you ain't got to sit there and meditate. Most High gonna put a spirit on you and condemn these devils and let them know what's happening to them, what's coming to them. The precepts gonna be in your mind. They're gonna be in your spirit. Now it says, neither do you premeditate, but whatsoever shall be given to you in the hour that speak ye, for it is not ye that speak, but the Holy Ghost. Now the brother shall betray the brother to death, and the father the son. That's why I spoke on this in a recent video, and I seen the Akim, he made a video about this too. Hey man, if you separated from a lot of people or whatever, that ain't no curse, that's a blessing. Because a lot of these motherfuckers, they don't want to do nothing but connive and plot and scheme and do little foul ass shit to you anyway. So if you kind of seem like you've been put away, you got less friends, less people calling your phone and shit like that, man, count that as a blessing. Because like I said, man, people in a foul ass spirit right now, especially those who down and out or miserable. Like they say, misery love company. You ain't always gonna have nobody around. You're doing other stuff and being productive and all that. Time alone is better than time with a possible enemy. Now it says, and the father and the son, and the children shall rise up against their parents. It shall cause them to be put to death, and you should be hated of all men for my name's sake. And people hate that name. I don't be around people that I've seen how they screw their face up. A lady cussed me out about that. She was like, I don't want to hear about that name. So they doing it now. Just imagine how they was acting back then. How they was stoning the prophets, telling on them, oh yeah, he over there. Oh, he be teaching over there. Because of that name. They ain't want to hear that name. But it says, but he that should endure to the end, the same should be saved. So I can you gotta endure. Deal with all these little situations. Ask for guidance, pray. That you first pray for spiritual things, the physical things, they follow right afterwards. So, you need that strength, you need that guidance. Know how to deal with situations, deal with people, and maneuver through all this madness while this third war kicking off. Let me go to this other precept real quick and I'm gonna end this video off because it's getting a little lengthy.
top story now because Western media are stepping up their attacks on Moscow, trumpeting what the Kremlin calls unsubstantiated warnings of Russia's imminent invasion of Ukraine. The Russian government has strenuously denied any move towards a conflict, but has laid out red lines against NATO's eastward expansion towards its borders. Well, we're pleased to say we can bring in now former UK Ambassador Craig Murray, despite a glitch earlier. Craig, good to see you again. Why do you think the West is drumming up fears here of a Russian invasion when?
Let me go ahead. Let's see what Esau gonna say first, and I'll give the answer on that.
Russia has said, look, consistently we have said we will not attack and we want a diplomatic solution.
Well, I mean, first thing to say is, of course, there isn't going to be a Russian invasion. This is a fuss concocted out of nothing. And partly it's to do with your last item. In the United Kingdom, you have a government in deep trouble and very unpopular. You have the same with Joe Biden. Joe Biden is plumbing depths of unpopularity that no president has ever plumbed before except for Donald Trump. So a foreign distraction, saber-rattling, warmongering is always something which politicians turn to, and which generally they can rely on their media to reflect and take up. So we're seeing this Russophobic warmongering propaganda largely, I think, as a distraction from the internal weakness of these key Western governments.
Okay. Now Esau, he was all over the place with that. This guy supposed to be a scholar, right? He got all these books and shit in the background. They'll look at this guy and be like, man, he gotta know something. But he ain't hit the nail right on the head. So let me go to the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2. This is why Esau doing this shit that he doing. Because you got all these issues going on over here, right? In America, you know, people are homeless. Let's see. This is exactly where I want to start at. Oh, 2 and 5, Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse 5. And I'll just read on down a little bit at the end of this. You got people that's homeless, you got people getting evicted, you got people dealing with health issues, you got families being ripped apart for whatever reason. You got food shortages. You got financial crisis, the U.S. still in debt, the debt clock still rising. All these issues, I can keep going, it's hella issues. All these issues, and what Esau want to do? Go somewhere else and go try to fuck with somebody else shit. Now that's the book of Habakkuk chapter 2. I'm going to start at verse 3. It says, for the vision is yet for appointed time, which is now. Because back then, maybe 50 years ago, 100 years ago, whatever, people was like, oh, people been saying that ain't never gonna happen. It's happening now. Now it says, write the vision, make it better. Let me go back a little bit. It says, it's yet for appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry. Behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith. Yet also because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gather unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. Now who that sound like? Who do that? Who go gather to themselves all nations and all people? I'm gonna take a rocket scientist to figure it out. Let's see. I'm jumping down to verse 8. It says, because thou hast spoiled many nations. Who spoiled many nations? Chinese people, they ain't, they had their war stories and stuff like that. They ain't gonna spoil many nations. Nigerians, they ain't gonna spoil many nations. The Polynesians, them Hawaiians, they ain't gonna spoil many nations. Who on this earth spoil many nations? But it says, all the remnant of the people shall spoil thee. And that's why you see these other nations, they gearing up. They moving in position. It said, because of men's blood and for the violence of the land, of the city, and of all that dwell therein. Now a person can't see this and really comprehend this, and the Most High blinding them, and they're fucking fool, because it's clear as day. Like the scripture say right here, let me go back to it. In the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2 still, verse 2, it says, and the Lord answered me and said, write the vision. You know, you have dreams, have visions. Some you write down, some you don't. It says, and make it plain upon tables. This is plain. This ain't no trigonometry or no damn astrophysics. It's plain. You can see it clear as day. Let me scroll down a little bit more. It says, woe to him that conveyeth, in verse 9, it says, woe to him that conveyeth an evil covetousness to his house, that he may set his nest on high. So, them gaining the position and the stuff that they do. Talk about Esau. That convey, or they covetous, or evil covetousness to their house. What they do, they go set somebody else up so they be good. And it was even worse. Our people done adopted that same spirit. That's why I mentioned, hey, if you ain't got that many friends, too many people calling you, don't even trip. Don't worry about it. Because that's a good thing. A lot of people, they're going to be taking each other out anyway when shit hit the fan. You want to be able to be tucked away, ducked off, low-key. Too many people don't know about you. I'm going to finish reading this off and then I'll end this video. It says, thou hast consulted shame to thy house by cutting off many people. Who cut off many people? We ain't do that. We ain't go around cutting off many people. Got people still getting cut off to this day. It says, and has sinned against thy soul, for the stone shall cry out to the wall. Which is funny that I read this because I'll be thinking about that wailing wall every time I read this precept. Now it says, for the stone shall cry out of the wall, and the beam out of the timber shall answer it. Woe to him that buildeth a town with blood, and establish a city by iniquity. Now let's see. What else I want to go to? Cause the rest of this chapter got so much stuff in it in Habakkuk. Just pinpoint who is who. You can see like, okay, what nation of people do what on this earth, still to this day. When I jump down to verse 15, it says, woe unto him that giveth his neighbor drink, that putteth that bottle to him and maketh him drunken. Also that they may us look on their nakedness. And that's what Esau did. Give you all these goodies, make you think shit's sweet. Then they fuck you over because you naked and you slipping. It says, thou art filled with shame for glory. Drink thou also, let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of the Lord's right hand shall be turned into thee, and shameful spewing shall be on thy glory. I'll read this last precept, and it says, for the violence of Lebanon shall cover thee, the spoil of beasts which made them afraid because of the men's blood, and for the violence of the land, of the city, and of all that dwell therein. Esau got to pay me. Ain't no way around it. They could try to escape to Mars or fucking Neptune or Pluto, whatever the hell they trying to go at. It ain't going down. So I just want to bring this out. I don't want to write this out. It's edifying. Call all y'all about Shalom to the left.